Hello, I'm Paula Hanford. I'm the CEO of PSC Support.
PSC stands for Primary Sclerosing Cholangitis.
And it's a really rare disease. We think only 5 to 10,000 people in this country have it. It's a disease that affects the liver and the bile ducts, and there's no effective treatments or cure for the disease currently. PSC Support is the only charity solely dedicated to PSC, and we provide information and support. We advocate for people with PSC, and we fund some very innovative, groundbreaking research into the disease as well.
Hi everyone, yes, I'm Nick Kane. I'm the Finance Trustee for PSC Support, and we're delighted to be joined today by Kieron Dyer, England footballing legend, 33 caps for England, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't absolutely done my research, but I was a boyhood Newcastle fan, so I think when you're younger, you always get told not to meet your heroes, so I'm putting that to the test today and meeting one of mine, so it really is an honour to have you with us. So thank you for inviting us down to Chesterfield today. And obviously, good luck for this weekend, because you could win the league this weekend. So that's great to know, and we'll all be supporting you.
Thank you.
So we'll kick off with a few questions, if that's all right.
No problem.
Hopefully, so similar to like a job interview and a nice gentle start, and talk about life before PSC. So there'll be a lot of people watching this video who might not be football fans. So can you just tell us a little bit about your life before your diagnosis?
Yeah. So I'm born in Ipswich. I was at the Ipswich Town Football Club from the age of 10. I was always destined to be a professional footballer. I was kind of like the golden child of the academy. I progressed through the youth team into the first team at 17. Established myself for my club. Represented my country in under 18s. Went to the under 20 World Cup in Malaysia. Represented my country while I was playing for Ipswich, and also represented England under 21s. We didn't get promoted to the Premier League, and it was just a matter of when I was going to sign for a Premier League team. There was a lot of interest from the likes of Arsenal, Leeds, West Ham, but I ended up in sunny Newcastle.
And I was very happy with that choice, thank you.
And yeah, I became an established Premier League player and represented my country, and life was great. It was probably early 2000 when I first started to have some symptoms with my liver. It wasn't PSC at the time, but I had an autoimmune condition that affected my liver. Obviously, being at a professional football club, they get the best specialists, the best people involved, and I was on medication for the rest of my career, but all my bloods and everything that was showing that my liver was fine. So yeah, life was great.
So I think I guess that's quite new to a lot of people, because a lot of people throughout your career saw that you spent quite a lot of time out injured. Were your teammates aware of what was going on with you, or did you keep it to yourself a lot?
My real close friends in football, we just mentioned Jonathan Woodgate off air, Jonathan Woodgate, Jermaine Genus, Titus Bramble, Craig Bellamy. 4 or 5 players obviously knew about it, and obviously everyone high up in the football clubs knew. So whether that be the manager or the owners or the CEOs, they all kind of knew. But like I said, they were taking advice from the specialists, and I was able to play the majority of my career.
And out of your career, what was the biggest highlight in your career?
Oh, in my career, obviously I'm an Ipswich Town boy, and when England, when Wembley was getting redone and rebuilt, England kind of played in different stadiums across the country. I played at St James's Park for England, I played at Hanford for England, but there was a game hosted at Ipswich Town, Portman Road, so I was a hometown boy playing for my country in my hometown, so that was probably the real highlight. People expect me to say the World Cup or European Championships with my country, but it was definitely playing for my country in my hometown, because everyone was there. I was representing the whole of Ipswich.
I was going to say, nothing beats your hometown, does it?
Exactly.
And they're doing well this year, Ipswich, aren't they?
Yeah, they're doing really well. It's just a shame that they're going against such juggernauts in that division of Leeds and Leicester, but we're guaranteed the playoffs, and we've still got a chance of automatic promotion, so fingers crossed.
All the best to them, yeah. And I say that through gritted teeth because my daughter's a Norwich fan.
Okay.
No, all the best to them. So it should be great to see them back in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So we know that PSC is experienced differently by different people, and can you tell us a little bit about how you got your diagnosis? Or how
Yeah,
that came
so
about?
like I said, I always thought I had the autoimmune condition, and I went to, obviously I had my doctors when I retired from the football club, but I also went to see a specialist, Simon Williams his name was, based in Ipswich. And I was going to do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in 2015. So I just went for they ask you for insurance reasons, ITV, to go and see a doctor to get clearance to do. So obviously I knew I had the autoimmune condition, went to Simon. He said it's been a while since you've had a biopsy and an MRI just to check everything's going all right. And then when my bloods and the biopsy came back, he said that I had the condition PSC. So I was still all right to go and do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. But he obviously told me what PSC involved, that I would need a transplant. There was no cure. But I was pretty blasé about it because when he mentioned transplant, I was thinking when I'm 60, 70, I thought it was one of them that, okay, but I'm doing all right, I'll be okay. So yeah.
Did you have any symptoms?
No symptoms at all, nothing at all. There was no jaundice, there was no itchiness, I was just living a normal life. He just said he could tell from the MRI and there was scarring now developing in the bile ducts. So yeah, I just carried on my life as normal. So this was probably in 2015-16. Had no symptoms until 2019. And I was working for Sky Sports. I did the Newcastle-Tottenham game with David Ginola. And every time you go off air, the makeup artists come and they touch up and put foundation on your face to make you look pretty. And the makeup artist kept looking at me really like with a worrying look. When I thought, what's going on here? But she didn't mention nothing or anything. And then when I finished off air, Dave Jones, who is one of the presenters, said, your eyes look really yellow. And I thought, okay. And he said, and then all the producers were texting my agent at the same time saying, Kieron needs to go and get checked out. I then came off air, turned on my phone. I had messages from my daughter, Lexi. She said, Dad, are you all right? Your eyes looked well. I think it was going viral on Twitter about my eyes. My wife, Holly, her sister, is a nurse. She said Kieron needs to go to the A&E as soon as he got back. So this was all happening on the Sunday. Got back to Ipswich really late Sunday night, probably about 1 o'clock, something like that in the morning. Woke up in the morning, went to A&E. I was in A&E. They transferred me straight to Adam Brooks within 2 days, saying you're going to need a liver transplant. And I met the team in Adam Brooks. They do all the tests to see if you're able to receive a transplant. And yeah, they said they're going to put me on the list and that I'll be looking to have a transplant within 3 to 6 months. So yeah,
how long was that before from I'm a Celebrity to
so this was in 2019, so it was a good 4 years of no symptoms, and then it just all of a sudden hit me. But prior to my eyes being yellow, I can remember I used to wake up in the night to go to the toilet, and it was just like a luminous orange yellow, and I drink quite a lot of water, and I'm thinking it's not like me to be this dehydrated, and I just kept putting it down to dehydration, and then obviously then my skin started to turn yellow on my eyes, and yeah.
Did you have any other symptoms like itch or right upper quadrant?
I had itch,
itch.
But the itch wasn't as severe as when I came to the last few days before my transplant. Then it was just unbearable.
Yeah, I've had someone describe the itch as itch under. She felt like she had itch under her fingernail. She couldn't get to it.
I was just clawing my skin to shreds, and I haven't got nails, and I was just constantly clawing. It was a tough process, that.
Yeah.
So a little bit about living with PSC now. So obviously you weren't just an amateur sports person, you were elite. As a lot of our sort of people watching this will know. So as you had a very active and athletic lifestyle, what impact did PSC have on that? So I know you were coach at times.
What was so hard for me at the time was once you're on the transplant list, your life comes on hold. You have to be in a certain radius, you have to have your phone on 24/7, you can't go on holiday. So that was all right initially because they thought that I would need a donor within 3 to 6 months. So this was in 2019. So I was still doing my coaching job at Ipswich, but I couldn't go to the away games. So if we played Bristol City away, someone else would go and have to take my job, which I didn't mind. But then it became 6 months, and I was going to still get my bloods, and I was still having regular checkups with the doctors, and they were saying, well, your bloods are doing really well. They're actually improving. 6 months turned to a year. A year turned to 18 months, and there was just no sign. So because my bloods were doing so well, they suspended me on the list. So that means that I'm not actually off the list, but I could go on holiday. I could leave the radius because there was no like signs that that I would need the transplant. And like you said, it came to about 2022, 2023, and I then took a job working for my old manager at Ipswich, Paul Cook, who's manager at Chesterfield, and everything was going great. Got to the playoff final in May. This is May 2023. I could still see there was jaundice in me. My bilirubin was always still up, but it was manageable. We had a holiday. The season finished. I went on holiday to Dubai with my wife. Came back. We started pre-season, and then that's when PSC really affected me. I started swelling up in my ankles. I was turning like Bart Simpson, Homer Simpson, that yellow. The itching was becoming unbearable, and at the time I was staying in hotels when I stayed up in Chesterfield, and it was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up in so much pain down my side, and I knew something weren't right, and I could have just gone to the A&E in Chesterfield, but I thought I'm going straight to Addenbrooke's. So this was probably in June time, and I went into Addenbrooke's, and I didn't leave Addenbrooke's until end of September when I had the operation. So I was in hospital for over 3 months, and it was a real tough time in hospital. Tough time.
Imagine what sort of impact did that have on your family? You've been in hospital for that long.
Yeah, because they see me when you're suffering in the late stages of PSC. You're probably at your worst. I was snappy. I was basically dying. Constantly itching, no appetite. And I would have 4 to 5 visitors every day, and it's such a trek from Ipswich. It's a 2-hour journey. It's about an hour and 15 there, and hour and 15 back. Could be an hour and a half, could be an hour and 40. And I had 4 to 5 people coming and visit me every day without fail. Just goes to show you how loved you really are. You don't realise until you really need it. And I felt sorry for them because they'd turn up and I'd be asleep. I was so fatigued, I'd be asleep. They'd try and talk to me, I'd just ignore them, go back to sleep. Then I'd get them to itch me all over, snap at them. It was a tough time for them, but they never showed. What was great as well, because I know a few of them thought that I might not get a donor in time, and they thought that I might die, and they never showed. They always showed positivity, even though they didn't. They were always there in great support, and I always remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess in terms of obviously PSC being, like you say, there's no cure other than transplant. A lot of people have to find coping mechanisms. So mine, when my wife was diagnosed with PSC, as I took up fundraising, so I started running, doing marathons and all that sort of stuff, and also became a trustee for the charity. Did you have any specific coping mechanisms, or even your family, did they have any specific ones?
No, I didn't really. I was really confident and positive that because I was at such a young age, considering I'm having a liver transplant and I'm a healthy lad and a healthy background, I always thought that I would overcome it. I would overcome the operation and get back on the road of recovery. They told me little records of someone came out of hospital after 10 days after the operation. That's the record at Addenbrooke, so I thought I'd try and get out in 9 days just to give myself certain challenges. But because I was so ill in hospital for them 3 months, I did lose a lot of strength, and I was a shadow of myself, and it was hard for me to take how much this illness affected me. Just before I signed for Chesterfield, I did a 150 kilometre bike ride, which I'd be able to do easily, and I was doing this while I was suffering from the liver condition, and I got cramp in every part of my body after 20 minutes, but I was refusing to give up, and it was just the most torturous ride ever. I was thinking, wow, this is a real illness that is affecting me this bad, but I was always positive. That was probably my coping mechanism. I just thought that there was never ever any doubt, even when they were wheeling me down to theatre and I was walking down with my mum and my missus. I never thought this is it, never, which is quite remarkable really, because when they were wheeling me down, I can remember my mum and my missus being nervous, probably the first time they showed nerves, and the surgeon came to meet me just before we went into theatre, and he said, "Are you confident?" to me, and my missus kind of said, "Are you confident?" And he went, "Yeah, every day, this is like riding a bike for me." And you could see the tension from them just go, like, this man, because I've had plenty of injuries in football, and you have surgeons that are confident and some surgeons who just are negative in a way. They give you the what ifs, but this man was like, nah, it'll be fine. And that was it, off I went.
We've definitely noticed that having so my wife has a consultant up in Newcastle, we have noticed that their attitude plays a lot in terms of how we walk away from an appointment. They could say the same thing, and if they're positive or negative, exactly. you feel
100%.
like you can feel on top of the world. And especially I don't know if you've gone down the Google route, but when my wife was first diagnosed, I googled a lot.
I never Googled
and that was probably the biggest mistake I've made. And if anyone's watching this and they're looking at Google, I would avoid it like the plague.
Same as me, yeah.
In talking of Google, obviously there is a lot of misinformation out there about PSC. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about PSC in general?
Oh, it's a good question. The thing what really has come to light for me is, like you said, is what you lot are trying to do, really, the lack of funding. And I honestly believe now that they will find a cure if we give it the attention and give this disease the attention that it deserves, because it is a killer of a disease. And the more funding and the more research we get, hopefully in my lifetime, that's one of the big things that I want to see, that transplants aren't the only hope. There will be a cure, and they can get down to the bottom of it. And like I said, we'll get them on the right way. There was another footballer, even since I've had my operation, another footballer contacted me, and he's got PSC. He's 54, 55 years of age, and he got diagnosed with it 6 months ago, and he's already now admitted into hospital. And he just reached out to me, see my story, asked for advice, and I'm trying to help him through it as well. So like I said, I've got a platform, hopefully, to reach out and to get this disease the attention that it needs. Hopefully I'll the Transplant games I'm going to be attending to in Nottingham in June. I think they want me to play a key part in the Transplant game. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. No one knew about this disease. Like you said, it only affects a small percentage, but we've got to get out there somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, Paul, I was just going to say, I think obviously you mentioned there that you've got a platform, and we absolutely really appreciate you doing this interview with us. We're aware you've done a couple of other interviews. I think it was Talk Sport for one, and was it True Geordie you did one on as well in the past. What sort of reception have you had from those interviews?
Oh yeah, all positive really. Because when I did the interviews, I didn't hold back. I told them the truth and how it affects people, and basically I was dying. If I didn't get the donor within a few more months, then I wouldn't be here. Talked about the burden of someone having to die to keep you alive is so hard to live with. Since I've had them interviews, the family have reached out to me in letter, and I've reached out to them, so I know a lot more about my donor. They know a lot about me now, and in their letter was really refreshing to say they said I'm a part of their life now, and like I'm continuing their legacy of that family member. So it's such a burden to carry, and it's a privilege, because without them I wouldn't be here. So it's an amazing journey. It's still going on. There's going to be obviously a lot of bumps along the way, but I'm heading in the right direction, and yeah, I'm loving life.
It's great to hear.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a bit about your transplant, but you've covered quite a lot of that. But how did you... So at the beginning, when they said you're going to put it on the list, you were like, I'm going to have that one in 20 years, 30 years, whatever. So I'll just put that to the back of my mind. But when they actually said, no, this is happening now, how did you feel?
Yeah, so when we were talking about how a different surgeon, just from their body language or from their tone, it could be... it can make your mood be up or it could be down. So when I was in Ipswich Hospital, when I checked in the A&E after my jaundice on Sky Sports, did my bloods, they did an MRI, and I can remember waking up about 6 o'clock in the morning, and they get you up at 6 o'clock in the morning, give you a bit of breakfast, and the doctors were doing the rounds. And the doctor came round. I didn't have my wife, I didn't have anyone with me, and they came in and they said, we've seen your bloods and we looked at the MRI, and you're going to need a liver transplant, and we're going to transfer you to Edinburgh. And that was it. And she said, I know it's tough for you to process, we'll give you some time and we'll speak to you later. And just walked out and just left me like in shock, really. Probably was in absolute shock. Started to panic. I was in a frenzied panic, really. Rang my wife and mum, and was trying to be strong for them, even though I was probably at my weakest, and was explaining to them that they've told me I need a transplant really soon. So my wife was, you can feel how frantic she was. Where have they come to asking me? And I said, they haven't given me no question. Well, that's unacceptable. I'm ringing the hospital, so she's going mad. I'm just trying to keep it all together. Come off the phone to them, and then I rang my friend Jonathan. He's known as DJ Spoonie, does radio too, and he's a DJ, he's a TV personality. And I just broke down to him and just said, basically, my life's over. And he was like, come on, medicine today. And I was just like, I can't believe, wow. So then they transferred me to Edinburgh that day, and then when I met the team at Edinburgh, so they have the whole team. They have the consultants, the liver consultants, the surgeons, the dietitians, the psychologists. They've got a whole team. It was just they're just so professional. And within one day, my mood went from my life's over, I'm going to die, to I'm going to beat this easily. Let's just do these tests, and hopefully they'll say I'm strong enough to for the transplant, and here we go. So within the space of 48 hours, my life went from thinking it was over to I've got a long life to live. So yeah, and I'll never forget that.
Over to me now, and hopefully a more positive side of things. So life, I guess, after the liver transplant now. So now you've had your transplant. How do you feel on a day-to-day basis?
If you'd have asked me when I first woke up from the transplant, that was probably the only time I mentally broke. The pain, I've never experienced anything like that. I think I was asking them just to end my life. That first 24 hours was just so excruciating. My wife and my mum, they had to leave the hospital. Obviously, the amount of tubes and pipes that were coming out of me, and to see me actually broken like that, asking for them to end my life, they couldn't bear to see me like that. And it's crazy. In the space of 24 hours, they come back nervously to the hospital the next day or the next morning, and I'm up sitting having a cup of tea, flirting with the nurses for 24 hours.
You had some football on the screen as well, did you?
It was crazy. So after that 24 hours, I was absolutely flying. Then probably a week into it, because I can remember the surgeons kept saying, honestly, it's not smooth sailing, there's going to be some bumps in the road, and like everything was fine. I was up walking, I was eating, I was going to the toilet myself, and then a week later they did a scan and they said that they thought there might be something blocked, so they had to reopen me again, so I had to go through the nightmare of the cut again. But when they opened me up, they said it wasn't what they thought, and they closed me back up, and like I said, from there it's been plain sailing ever since. I come out of hospital, went for my regular bloods, they were always in check, started to get my fitness back, was allowed to drive, and within 3 months I was back to work and on the training pitch for Chesterfield. So it's been a real success, and I'm nowhere near back to where I was pre-op, but they say it takes probably a year to get back to your normal self, and I'm well on the way. I can feel it. I'm getting stronger, I'm getting fitter, I'm more active every day. I didn't realise how ill I was, so for the past 3 years I'd always sleep in the afternoon, always just couldn't help but fall asleep. I never fall asleep in the afternoon. I've got so much energy levels back, so it's made such a positive impact on my life. So forever grateful.
That's great to hear. You're obviously doing well here at Chesterfield, we're flying in the league. What's next for you? What are your ambitions in your career?
I always thought I wanted to be a manager. I'm not so sure now, but I want to be a first team coach, which I am now, but the ultimate is to coach a team in the Premier League. So I'm doing all my badges. I got my pro license, which is probably the biggest badge you can have in football when it comes to coaching. So I'm well on my way, and like you said, hopefully I can get Chesterfield. Our ambition is to one day get into the Championship. It looks like we're going to be into League Two, and we'll start League Two as one of the top 6 teams, I think, for next season. So we could go back-to-back promotions and be in League One before you know it. So just got to be positive and carry on this journey. Yeah.
So Kieron, one of the things you mentioned was trying to find a cure or effective treatments at least for this disease. One of the things we're doing, and I think we've mentioned this, we've talked about this before, is a campaign called Mission 2030, where we've pledged £1 million for research.
So we've already funded £155,000 worth of research last year, and we're going to fund a similar amount this year as well. And we're going to fund a research fellow who's going to be looking at different aspects of PSC over the next 3 years.
There's some of the things that we're doing, but thank you so much for your time today. Before I take your mic off and you go back onto the football pitch, isn't it? Pitch. Sorry. Could you just, if there was one thing for someone watching this video that you'd like to take away with them, what was one thing that you'd want them to, what would it be?
I was really negative about the NHS. I know it sounds crazy. Just for if you have bumps and bruises and you go up the A&E and you could be waiting 5 hours and you think, but they saved my life, and they're incredible people, from the surgeon to everyone, nurses, surgeons, consultants, everyone at the Adam Brooks NHS. They were incredible, because it weren't just me. I was on a ward with, before the operation, I was on a ward with probably 8 of us, all with the same symptoms, all crappy patients, all snapping at them. And they just treat you, they can't do enough for you, and they keep your spirits up, and they'll do anything. And like I said, as a team, they saved my life. So my big thing from it all is, with this condition, once you go into hospital, you're in the safest place ever. They will look after you when you're at your lowest, and I'll never forget that.
Kieron Dyer, thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
No problem.